What's going on, beautiful people? This is the Perspective Chasers podcast, and I'm your host, John. Coming up on this episode, I'm thinking about the benefits and the negatives to self education and kind of break it down, look at kind of how it's affecting me and how maybe you could apply this to your life. So let's get into it and see what there is for this one. So to start this off, as always, I'll start talking from my own perspective. I've always had a curiosity for life, but my proper education probably started when I left school. Like, I don't want to shun school too much, but it very much is more of an indoctrination than an education. Like, it's not to say that there's no value there. There are things that you can learn and there's things that you will learn that will vastly benefit your life in some areas. But there's also a lot of stuff that you'll learn that you'll find useless. There's a lot of stuff that you should have learned and you'll never learn. And that's when you enter the school of life. But there's always going to be the kind of real world skills and lessons that you need to learn. But then there's also the kind of the other side of things, the side of stuff that doesn't kind of implement directly into life so much, but more the back end of life, the indirects of life, the kind of the hobbies and the how you spend your time, how you are in each moment, and the little things like it kind of trickles out into all of them. So whether it be your core beliefs or your coping mechanisms or what you've learned about the world itself or how to function in the world, all of the different lessons you learn about life, that that trickles out all throughout your life. So when you become conscious of it and you kind of start educating yourself, whether it be on ways of life or certain aspects of life or species or whatever it is, once you kind of start delving into something for your own interests beyond the curriculum based stuff or beyond being told you have to learn it because of this, that, or the other. Like, there's so many curiosities out there that you don't necessarily have to answer any of them. That's probably the wrong thing to say. You don't have to answer any of them, no, but the excitement of chasing them and trying to answer those things, I think invigorates a lot of people. And then there's a lot of people that have no real passions in life or no real curiosities, and they, well, have no passion. You know, they have nothing to get excited about, and maybe they're always looking for it. Maybe they never find it. But taking on that task of educating yourself in varying aspects of life, you'll at least kind of learn about yourself and you'll learn what interests you, what gets you excited. And that's the thing, like for some of those people that never find their passion, it's not to say that it's not out there. It's maybe they just never tried enough things to find what it was yet. And again, that comes by choosing to expose yourself to countless situations. There's so many instances that we learn in and we kind of build these different understandings of the world and ourselves that the more you expose yourself to these things, the more you're going to learn to benefit and grow from them. Whereas if you just learn what people tell you, you'll literally just be molded in their image. And at least for me, I don't see no fun in that. I'm very curious. I like to explore and kind of the trend I'm on now with kind of educating myself. I'm kind of delving into a bit of world history, and again, it allows me to step further back and kind of look outside myself, look at society, look at how the world works and how the world's been turning, or at least our interpretation or our assumptions of how it's been turning. Because again, nobody ever really knows. History is always changing, whether they like to admit it or not. We're always discovering new things. And the reality is, there's very few things we can say with complete certainty. It is always an assumption. Even if we find something that, say something's carbon dated, so we know the exact year that it's from, and we know how we would have used a particular item or whatever else, there's nothing to say that they would have used it in the same way. There's so many things in which we push things through our lens and we try and make it fit our reality and our understanding. That may not always be the case. And sometimes stepping out and learning something new is the catalyst to kind of change that idea or that thought process. And they say knowledge is power, and I kind of took that to heart at a very young age. And yeah, it left a bad taste in my mouth having to learn a curriculum that I didn't choose or wholeheartedly choose. But again, you can find value in everything. Sometimes the things you don't want to do are the things that you need to do and are the most valuable. Like sometimes people's problem is too much choice. So for some, there's having those limitations is going to allow them to flourish. For some, complete freedom is going to allow them to flourish. Everybody is different. But again, it ties into that self-education of taking that time to learn about yourself, learn about the different types of people, learn which type of person you are, learn what makes you tick, learn what you enjoy. All of these things are things that we need to learn. Like, we're not born with an instruction manual. We're not born with that they will be like this. They're gonna like this type of food. This is gonna be their hobby. They're gonna be an introvert. They're gonna be this. They're gonna be that, or whatever else. All of those things we're meant to discover about ourselves throughout our life. All of the things that are out there in the world, we're meant to discover for ourselves throughout our life. I think it's so easy to forget that humans were once nomadic. Like, we roamed and moved around the earth and we didn't stay in one place. Now we manipulate our environment and we try to make the world work for us. And it creates a whole different domino kind of effect. And you learn very little sitting in the same place. If you go to the same job every day, do the same tasks day in, day out, it becomes routine. You end up on autopilot. I've been there, I've done that, I didn't like it. How many people are doing that in life? Like, when the seasons changed before we had fixed houses and everything else, we would move and migrate around the world. Now migration is seen as a problem. And that's not to say that there ain't problems that come with migration. There are. But there's also benefits that come with migration. There are reasons for migration. And it's not until we step back and look at these reasons and actually step outside of ourselves, we can learn the true lessons behind all of it. And there's always going to be something to learn. There's going to be a bigger causality, a cause and effect beyond all of life. And it's there, but if you don't take the time to look for it, you'll never see it. You'll blame other things, or you'll be confused, or you'll project hate. Like, I think the more educated you become, and like I say, that's not necessarily in the traditional sense, but just the more information you have on hand, or you've seen or exposed yourself to over time or consumed over time, the more information that is in your archive, the broader view you'll have of life and the world itself. And it'll be far easier to kind of proportionalize a lot of the problems. Like, realistically, at the minute, there's riots going on around the country, there's this going on, there's that going on, there's stop oil protesters getting in the way of this, that, there's that march, this march, da da da. There's so much going on. But yesterday I sat in the park with my daughter looking up at the clouds, just really the only background noise was cars. And it's not to say all that other stuff isn't going on, but in that moment, I wasn't experiencing it. I wasn't exposed to the violence or the chaos or anything else. I was removed from it. But not knowing of it doesn't make it any less important. If I was to start traveling around the country or whatever else, it would be highly important what's going on around the world, or around the country rather. So, and then it obviously, it's gonna change how the world is around me, and it's gonna change where I want to go and this, that, and everything else. Like when I do want to travel, I'm gonna obviously avoid the places that things have got rough in, and that is sad. And there's gonna be things that obviously people in those areas are gonna suffer, and the monuments and all of this stuff that gets destroyed in the process of these protests, it's all kind of lost now, and it's all for somebody else's ventures, because they can't step outside themselves enough to see that there's a better way. Again, with information comes power, and I see something the other day, and I guess this is about the stop oil stuff here. He was saying that like it's the most, uh, I'm paraphrasing, so forgive me. It's kind of like the most efficient way, or the most recognizable way to get noticed, by doing these big da 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 things and inconveniencing people and everything else. But I believe more in leading by example. And if you was to run that ethos and see what you're doing to the world, if everybody was to behave like these people, we would live in an anarchist society. And while that might be fun for those in the temporary, would they not feel so much worse if that was their everyday life? Like, how much of this stuff do we take for granted? Being able to go down to the supermarket and get some food, or put the telly on, or put heating on, or have instant entertainment at the drop of a hat, or whatever it is. Like, all of this stuff we take for granted because we've never known a time without it. We've learned that this is life. But is it really? How many other people lived their entire life not knowing any of the things that we know today? From them, they was the most advanced they was ever going to be. And that was their experience. They lived their whole life like that. Now for us, how much of our life do we take for granted, and how many of these things that make our life easy would we really struggle without? But again, because we've had them all of our lives, we've taken for granted. Information's kind of the same thing, because there's so much of it, and you never know what part of the information is true or false these days as well. So that's the kind of added problem. And there's so much information that you can find an argument for everything and anything. But it's not to say that the more information you have, the better it is for you. The more, because then you can come to an educated decision. You can take all of the information you have and use it to derive the most plausible answer, at least to yourself. And to me, that's what's going to make a happy existence. Once you can say within yourself that you're living existence for you, and you're living it your way, like, it's kind of, I've gone all over the place on this one, but I guess I've had a lot on my mind. It's kind of one of those things where, like, the more you kind of learn about the world and things, and like I say, because I'm looking into world history and that at the minute, it is obviously but making a bias in this topic and that. But there's a lot you could learn. Like, you could learn about the human body, and that's gonna change how you treat your body and everything else. It's just the fact that I've been looking into world history and how things have been shifting over time, that I'm obviously thinking a lot about that, and with a lot of the chaos that's going on in the world, it's hard not to think about that kind of stuff. But to get back on the topic of kind of self-educating, if you're still with us, there's so many aspects that you could teach yourself. You could learn pottery, you could learn to paint, you could learn to play music, you could learn to write poetry, you could learn anything. Any skill you learn and you choose to learn is going to add value to you. It's going to add depth to your character. It's going to add new understandings to you. it's only ever going to add value to yourself by learning something new. When you come into skills and like understandings, even stories and that, it can change how you think about the world, how you think about life, how you approach things yourself. Like there's so much value that can be added by choosing what you learn and actually having a conscious choice in it instead of just going, ah, yeah, I'm just going to put this on to just create some noise. Like actually have a conscious effort on what you're consuming because you don't realize it, but that is an education. What you constantly expose yourself to, you're teaching yourself about the world, how world is, how the life is. So if you're constantly watching dramas and this, that, and everything else, no wonder your life feels dramatic. Whereas if you're actually present in life and dealing with your dramas and everything else, you probably won't feel that dramatic. Right? We tend to kind of catastrophize our own lives. Again, they're ours, so we think they're the be all and end all, but it's not always true. And it might have taken me a while to get on that little rant or rally, but hopefully anybody that did stick around for that sees the benefit in it and takes the time to learn something new for themselves. It really is down to you to kind of put in the time and effort and choose what you expose yourself to, the information that you consume and the ideas that you consume and perpetuate yourself. Because these things shape your life, they shape you, and they will affect the people around you. So lead by example. Build a better you and build a better world. I'm going to wrap it up there, but the seed for this episode is going to be just take some time to do something nice for yourself. It's so easy to get caught up in the hustle and bustle of life and doing things for other people. Do something nice for you. Don't make excuses about it, because again, this is what I do. I'll say, yeah, I'll do something nice for John when da 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 da, and it never comes. Do something nice for you. Do something you'll enjoy and try to make that a habit. Because as always, it's your life. So if you're not doing something that you enjoy, why are you doing it? Like, even if you put a thing of like once a month or once a week, you're going to do something for you, that's either 12 or 52 little acts for you a year. Add that up over a lifetime, that's a countless amounts of new experiences. Whereas if you don't do that little act for you, or you don't put in that time for you, that's lost for time. All of those opportunities are just gone. So be present in your life, do something for you, and enjoy it. All the best, and I'll catch you on